Hi all! Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Morning, everybody. All right, we're starting off again with Finn because we were out on the land today and he was out there running around. He was so happy. We have a lot to cover, so let's just jump right in and get there, shall we? Let's go. To start off with, on the bullying money, this subscriber of mine pointed out that the money might have been pledged. You know, that's synonymous with donated. JM also said the same thing. Did Meghan pledge the money or donate the money? Good point. And on the Whoopi Goldberg thing, Michelle pointed out that Piers Morgan and Sharon Osbourne were fired for much less than what Whoopi Goldberg has said. Excellent point. Next up, remember I showed you about the stamps? Well, now the Royal Mint unveiled the new commemorative coins for 2023 that have King Charles's face on them. And there's a special coin issued to mark the 75th birthday of King Charles as well. There's also a £2 coin celebrating the centenary of the Flying Scotsman. There's a 50 pence coin celebrating 75 years of the NHS. There's a 50 pence celebrating the Windrush generation. There's a lot going on. All right, moving on. The next story came out, said that Prince Charles understands he'll be king, that William and Catherine have explained to him what's going on in the future with the family and why he's in the position that he's in, and they're attempting to give him a normal childhood. Personally, I think they're doing a wonderful job. We've seen pictures of him. He goes to a regular school. He goes to kids' birthday parties. He plays soccer. You know, he's being raised like a normal kid with the cousins. I think they're doing a great job. And speaking of cousins, Savannah Phillips, the grandchild of Princess Anne and the eldest great-grandchild of Queen Elizabeth, turned 12. Happy birthday. That's a big milestone. Next up, King Charles sent out a very nice note about the death of Rabbi Levi. And for those of you who don't know who he is, he was the spiritual leader of a huge congregation there in London. All right, next up, this story came out saying Kate was remaining extremely popular in the United States because she gave Harry and Meghan a lesson in grace. Yes, I completely agree with this. Here she is on a tour. It's her first time back to the U.S. in years. And while all of this is going on, Harry and Meghan dropped the trailer for Invictus. Then they dropped the trailer for their Netflix special. They did everything they could to steal the spotlight, and it made Harry and Meghan look like a bunch of small children having a temper tantrum. And it's exactly that kind of behavior that people are talking about because King's coronation, they think, might be overshadowed. I'm sorry, a king being crowned cannot be overshadowed by a birthday party for a 4-year-old. I'm sure Harry and Meghan are going to try, but I doubt it's going to happen. But not without them attempting something, I'm sure. And with that said, the royal family is being praised for keeping a dignified silence. Now, I have to say, initially, I was one of those ones that was like, they need to respond. But in the long run, you realize that no matter what they say, Harry and Meghan are going to come back, and it's going to turn into a tit for tat. So I think it's a good thing that they are keeping a dignified silence. You guys know how the Express UK, you know how the UK loves their polls. So the Express UK did a poll with over 8,700 responses, and only 20% said that the royal family should speak out. I agree. And what about stripping of titles? Well, Australian News had a thought of that. You know how I love Australian News. Listen to this.
Will King Charles II strip them of their titles, Duke and Duchess of Sussex? I don't think so. I think Charles is going out of his way to avoid being publicly negative about his son. Rather, he is behaving quite graciously towards them, considering the way they behave towards him. And King Charles is focused on monarchy, not celebrity. It's clear that he's focusing on the long term, the bigger picture. Celebrity comes and goes, monarchy is in for the long haul. So, no, I don't think he'll strip them of their titles.
Now, of course, it's coming out that now Meghan is going to write that tell-all book and she's going to spill all these secrets about the king. The truth of the matter is she really was not privy to a whole lot that was going on, which I completely agree with Lulu LA here, because they knew what was happening. So they never disclosed private details in front of her. Now, with all of this talk, Australian News also had a thought on who's really to blame. Harry, Meghan, what's really happening? Listen to this.
Have you had your fill of Harry and Meghan yet? Now, I know there are a lot of people who are feeling rather Harry and Meghan out at the moment. Well, brace yourself, because in about 10 days from now, Harry's autobiography will be released, in which he will once again wash his dirty linen in public and show great disrespect for his family, and the headlines and the TV news will be full of it. So let's ask, what exactly is going on here? A lot of people are inclined to put the whole blame on Meghan. They think she's got Harry hypnotised. They think Harry has got the IQ of a sea anemone, and he's just being led around by the nose and has no real idea of what's going on. But I think that lets Harry off far too lightly. Let me suggest to you that he is a young man relentlessly driven by resentment. And the title of his new book, this autobiography, out in a week and a bit, tells us about his resentment, because the book is called Spare. Now, that refers to an old saying that applies to any royal family, and in fact to all aristocratic families, that the role of a wife is to produce an heir and a spare. And for Harry to call his book Spare shows us he is obsessed with this fact. What that book title tells us is that he deeply resents, and apparently has resented all his life, the fact that he was the second born, that he's not the heir and he will never be king. Well, resentment is a bad thing to build a life on, but it's looking rather as though that's what Harry seems to have done. He chose to marry a woman who would feed and support this resentment. He's chosen to publicly criticise his family for treating him as the spare, not the heir, and that leaves Harry in much the same position as the late Duke of Windsor, the man who, very briefly, was King Edward VIII and who abdicated, giving up the throne for Wallis, the woman he described as the woman I love. Dickie, as he was known in the family, lived the rest of his life in resentment at not being king, and the rest of his life was consumed by a destructive cancer of resentment and bitterness. Sadly, Harry is quite possibly choosing to go down the same path. But if he does, it's his own choice. So perhaps we shouldn't blame Meghan quite as much as many people are keen to do.
And you know, people in the United States are not loving them much anymore. Max Foster of CNN said that the documentary was entirely one-sided, saying, quote, "Of course, this is all entirely from the Sussex view." Daisy McAndrew from NBC reported that Harry and Meghan took no responsibility for their part in the royal family split. Even Gayle King called the final episodes dicey. Even Howard Stern trashed it. Now, we all know that the Politico column came out by Joanna Weiss, and every time a journalist, I agree with Meghan's mole here, every time a journalist comes out that doesn't praise Meghan, her fan base goes bonkers and starts sending racist abuse and threats to that individual. So here's Meghan encouraging women to use their voices, and then when women do, apparently you're only allowed to use your voice if it's in praise of Meghan Markle, or else her followers go nuts. And here's a few examples for you. This Sussex Squad member said that she was an escapee from a science lab. This person made a reference to her nose and the fact that she's Jewish. You know, this person also, you need a nose job. So you guys get the double standard. Don't you dare criticize Meghan Markle or her skin or anything else, but we can do it to you. And what about the apology that this woman is due from the Sussex Squad members? I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath if I were her. All right, a couple more small little things to touch on. Twitter implemented a new rule that bans links to other social platforms. So, of course, Christopher Boozy is pushing this Spoutable thing, and apparently his links to donate money don't work anymore. And finally, Nate, the lawyer who's in the lawsuit with Christopher Boozy, noted that a lot of journalists listed Christopher Bouzy as an expert. Come to find out, he doesn't have a degree in anything. So he's going to be asking some hard questions to all of the people on this list. I can't wait to hear their answers. All right, a reminder for you guys again that there's spam showing up on my channel. Do not click on any of that crypto stuff. Do not click on any of the WhatsApp stuff. The only way to reach me is through the email address, which is in the description box above. Also in there are the links to my Twitter, my Getter, my Rumble, and my Patreon account, okay? Don't forget to leave those comments below. Don't forget to double check and make sure that you're still subscribed. If you haven't hit the button, go ahead and hit the button. For those of you who've donated to my coffee fund and through the thanks button, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.